and welcome once again to another edition of our Government at Work program. A program brought to you by the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration and hosted by yours truly, Keith Scarborough. It's a program designed to inform and educate all citizens and residents of Nevis, both at home and abroad, of the many positive developments that are taking place here on the island of Nevis. It's another wonderful Thursday evening here in Nevis, and it's a time when we all look forward to a night filled with information and good conversation as it pertains to the good governance of the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration. We look forward each week to go deep into discussions with the ministers of government, the advisors, permanent secretaries, department heads, as well as top officials from the various statutory corporations here on the island of Nevis. Each week, we make every effort on this program to keep the discussions as frank and as honest as possible so that our listeners and viewers would have a true reflection of the developments that are taking place here in the land that we all call home. This program, I remind you, is broadcast live on VON Radio every Thursday evening from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Then we broadcast on Nevis Television on Sunday evenings from 8:30 p.m. This and other Government at Work programs, as well as our Bird's Eye View programs, can be seen on Facebook, YouTube, and the NTV web page. To our Flow TV viewers, please be advised that NTV programming can be found on channel 103. And those of you who have digital TV, NTV can be found on channel 99. So make sure that you log on every day of the week for our news package, our informative programs, and of course our entertainment package. We shall take a short break, and when we return, I shall introduce my guest for this evening's program to you. So stay locked down to the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio 860 AM.
St. Thomas is right, St. James is put together and build your land. Right, St. George's and St. Paul's together with St. John's. This land is enough for all to share. No reason to leave and go nowhere. Foreigners can come here from America and England. There is something mighty sweet about my land. And if the foreigners who live here can insist that it's here they're from, then I swear I'll never leave my native land. One people, one country.
Welcome back. Folks, I am pleased to have as my guest this evening the Honorable Spencer Brand, Minister with responsibility for infrastructural development, labor, disaster preparedness, etc. Honorable, welcome once again to our Government at Work program.
Good evening, King, and Keith King, descendant Scarborough. It's indeed a pleasure for me to be here with you tonight. Let me say a very pleasant good evening to the many listeners and viewers of this edition of your show, and it is indeed a pleasure to be here as we try to impart to the people of Nevis and to those who are listening further afield some of the happenings within the confines of my ministry. I am indeed delighted to be here with you tonight.
And we are indeed happy to have you as our guest this evening. First, let me say happy anniversary to you and Mrs. Brand. I hope you both had a wonderful Easter and that you got some much needed rest and relaxation, and of course some fun as well.
Yes, we did.
Good. No,
it was a very good anniversary. 25 years. It's been a while, but it has been a wonderful journey, just like everything else in life. Certainly has its ups and downs, but we are indeed committed to each other, committed to the family, committed to the cause that we and the commitment that we made 2.5 decades ago. So we are enjoying it, and we have no intention of stopping at this time.
It doesn't make any sense. I'm happy to hear that. Now, before we go into our discussions, I want you to enlighten us a little on whether there is any further developments on the Fort Charles project. What's the latest on that project, if anything?
That has been on pause. Listen, that it is still a pet project of mine. The main reason, of course, is financing. So we have not advanced in the way in which I would like there are other areas that is really pulling and tugging at the very limited resources that we have. I am looking at that as trying to reposition now our project management unit, where we can now begin to seek to access a lot more of these environmental financing and grant funding that is available. So that is the next angle that we are looking at, but it has been on pause for some time.
Okay, all right. Now, a few weeks ago, you did a walkthrough with the Honorable Congress Maynard, which included the ongoing works on the Charleston Police Station, among other things. Tell us a little about the purpose of that visit, Will.
Well, the walkthrough was in celebration of World Water Day and the week. The police station visit was slightly different. In terms of the Honorable Congress Maynard's visit to Nevis, himself and his permanent secretary and other management personnel from his ministry and other individuals visited Nevis to try and get a first-hand view as to what we were doing in terms of our water enhancement project. We would have given them some insight into our SCADA system, and the SCADA system is a system as one of the offshoot of the CDB water enhancement project. It gives the management team at the water department real-time indication as to what is happening with our tanks, what is happening with some of our wells, what is happening as well with with the tank. It can give the idea of the levels. If we have any electrical issue, it can give some indication that there are certain pumps that is offline. So they had a look at that. I believe that they were very much impressed with it. It is still a project that continues to expand. We continue on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, add additional stuff to it. So it is a work in progress. It also gives some guidance as to what is happening at the Hamilton filtration system. So these young, bright technicians can pick up their smartphone and see exactly what is happening with our water infrastructure to some great extent. So they had a look at that. They also had a look at our infrastructure at Hamilton. The filtration system. I know they do have some issues as well on sinkets with some, I believe, is some arsenic in one or two of their wells on sinkets. And I think that the thinking is that they can use a similar filtration system that we are using at Hamilton to try and remedy that situation. And the third site that we looked at was the desalination plant in the Butler's area. That has been online, and I think it's a similar plant that they are doing on sinkets. And I believe that they would have gotten a first-hand explanation and view as to what their plant would look like, how it would operate, because we have been operating ours now for quite some time.
Great. Now, speaking of water, I want to start this evening's discussions on that, because we always hear, of course, that of the old adage that water is life, and that is so true. Whenever water goes off in any home or business here in Nevis, it becomes a major topic for discussion, of course. Fortunately for the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration, 2025 has not been as bad as in years gone by in terms of the dry weather spell that we had become accustomed to. The distribution of water in most parts flowed steadily throughout the island, and of course we shall discuss that a little further down. But why do you think that happened?
That we are having water flowing.
This year has not been as bad as is in years gone by.
The drought projection was not too encouraging, and we can speak a bit more about that later. But I think that the team at Water Department continue to make some very concerted effort in terms of managing our water resources. I think that they are paying, in my mind, a bit more attention in terms of our wells, our pumps, our storage facilities. and I think that in real time they can spot any challenges or any difficulties before it becomes a major problem. I personally feel that they are a bit more vigilant, and they are not allowing things to get out of hand before they deal with it. Of course, the entire water infrastructure is all mechanical. You're going to have pumps that go down, you're going to have broken lines, so in those instances we may lose water for a while, a couple hours, half a day or something. But outside of that, I think that the actual management and the vigilance that they are paying to the entire system is helping us to mitigate against some of those challenges.
So basically you're saying is better management why we were able to.
Well, that along with some major investment, of course, we continue to make significant investment in our water infrastructure, and as well that would have given some balance and add some value to the entire system.
Okay, great. Could you give us an idea as to what our water levels are like as we speak?
Well, you know, when I kind of says that you just asked that. I did check, and we have a number of tanks that they are around 30 feet in height, and each one of those tanks have some overflow pipe at 27 feet, 28 feet. And I actually did check before I came on the show, and most of those tanks are just around 20, 21 feet. So in terms of our storage levels right now, we are up to well over 75% in terms of storage, the level. So we are in a pretty good position as I am sitting here tonight.
That's good, because I remember this time last year we were in a real dry spell, and we were, Anyway, we are all aware, and you did mention it earlier, that a desal plant is currently being constructed in the parish of St. James, if not completed, and from all reports it's nearing completion.
Well, it has actually been completed,
really?
and it's been completed a few months now, and it has been quietly and unassumingly providing, I believe it's around 72,000 gallons when you add the solar and the grid, the power from Neblek, on a 24-hour basis. So that's the level that we are getting. But it has been functioning beautifully. I would say as well, King, we have had a well in the area that went offline recently, and the general public, did not even notice or realize that we had any issue with the well in that same Butler's area, because the desalination plant was able to pick up the slack.
I am happy to hear that, but I am a little puzzled, because I remember we had a lot of talk about the desal plant, and we know that the construction was going on, but now you're telling us it's completed and going beautiful, but I didn't hear anything at all. That's why the question.
Well,
we haven't heard anything about it.
But they said perhaps you missed that one, because we have done some public service announcement on it. A number of things was released out in. What I would say to you that perhaps maybe why you may have missed it, it have not necessarily been officially commissioned, because the contractors to return to the Federation and do that official handing over and commissioning. But it has been online, and it has been serving its purpose. Oh,
that's great. Good to hear. Now, the constituency of St. James has been the hardest hit over the years when it comes to water rationing. How important is this desal plant to the distribution of water within the constituency of St. James?
Well, the desal plant would add some, absolutely bring some relief to the good folks of St. James's. And while you are correct that most times whenever there is rationing, the St. James's constituency is one that is often affected because of how the system is. I have been working tirelessly to change that. because if you notice as well, King, we started our drilling exercise in the St. James's area first.
I noticed.
That was as a direct result to ensure that whatever new water we find should be in an area that is most affected. So we looked at that, and we realized that the first well that needs to be dug must be in that area. And I believe that God has been good to us, because the first well that we dug proved to be a very high yielding well. So the desal plant, the new well in Maddens, well, 2 new wells in Maddens, we are expecting that if the system is really stressed and tested, we should not have the kind of issues and difficulties in the St. James's area.
Okay, let me ask you something, the desal plant. So that water is being pulled from the sea?
Not directly from the sea. It's a little away from the coast, very close to the sea. It's water that we call brackish water, not totally salt water. It's a mixture of salt and fresh water. So the desal plant itself does not necessarily have to do as much work as if it was 100% salt water. So that was the good thing actually about that site, where we were able to dug the well for the water supply for the desal plant a little bit inland. That was away from the sea, and that has proven extremely beneficial as it regards to the operation of the desal plant.
Okay, great. Now, I am told that the desal plant is a sort of test run, this first one. I'm also told that it's expensive to operate. And are there any plans to construct other desal plants across the island of Nevis in the future, especially if we are to get successful with the development of the geothermal energy?
Well, I like how you put the question. Desalination has been expensive because of the high energy consumption. These 2 plants are solar, and if you work them, let's say you have sunlight from 7-8 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock, that's virtually half of the day. So that automatically cuts down the cost. The idea is that this desal plant and the site that we have chosen is a site where we can expand into any further desalination. I think that again was one of the creative and genius way of selecting that site with a long-term vision, with the idea of, if we reach to a point in Nevis where our groundwater is so stressed and is at a point of extreme difficulty, then we can pivot and expand that site. But the cost has always been because of the high energy cost consumption in terms of energy. The solar component have significantly reduced that, and any expansion or any future desalination must have a solar component. So the entire setup and the entire site is geared toward the future, and it will be and it must be solar component a part of it.
Of course, but that will reduce the cost, like
Absolutely.
you said. Okay. Now, the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration, under your leadership, is in the process of digging several more wells throughout the island of Nevis in the coming months.
Yes.
Could you give us an idea as to how many wells will be dug, where they will be dug, and exactly when that process is likely to begin?
You say begin this and that.
We started already?
Long time.
Oh, you see.
You
Give us the information because the public needs to know.
We have the project started last year, actually, in the Maddens area. We would have entered into an agreement with a company out of Trinidad called Water and Oil Well Service Company Limited. They are a drilling company. We went through an exercise where we would have sent out some invitation to bid, and we had some interest. We had a company, I believe, out of Jamaica that showed some interest, one from St. Kitts, this one from Trinidad, and I also believe that there was some interest from the company that would have done some drilling here on Nevis before. Some connection to be. So those were the companies that we decided to go with, this company out of Trinidad. We have done 2 wells in the Maddens area. One very close to the water tank in Maddens, and another one is further down next to the field in what you call Whitehall, just a little bit on the hill there. Both wells have been completed in terms of the drilling and the flow rate test and the analysis of the water and all of that. The first well that we have dug there in the Maddens area is already connected to the system. That well is virtually on standby. The tank right next to it, there are other wells in the area that is presently feeding into that tank. So if the system right now become extremely stressed, we basically turn on a tap, and that would alleviate the situation, especially in the St. James's area. We are hoping to do an additional 7 wells. We are presently right now in the Descents area. We would have completed the 2 in Maddens. The site that they are at right now is in the Descents area, sorry. That is right below the Best Buy in Gingerland, in that area. We have a site in Braziers. We have also identified a site in Stony Hill, Webb's Estate, Jessup's Tower Hill. So those are the areas. But I am not too concerned about the number of sites. I am more on the volume side.
Right.
I believe that when this project is completed, if we can get 1.5 million gallons per day, close to 2 million gallons per day, I believe that would put us in a very, very good position. I think right now, based on the 2 wells we have already dug in the Maddens area, we are already in a very good position. Because just from 1 well, we were getting over 340, 350 gallons per day. That was in comparative, that is probably one of the highest yielding well. And like I said, that well right now is on standby. It's not really being utilized by any great extent. And that, I think, is in my mind the crown in the jewel from this entire exercise.
Great. Now, if all those wells prove to be fruitful,
yes.
How much, you did mention 1.5, but how much gallons of water are we likely to see going into the water system if all of them prove to be fruitful?
I am being very conservative, King. Like I said, I am looking at a minimum of 1.5 million. We are, from 2 wells, we are practically about half that. So just from 2 wells, you're already 500, 600. And then the well, based on the science and the data that we have been seeing, the one in Descents is projected to be another very high yielding well. So from 3 or 4 wells, if we can meet our projected target of 1.5 million, and then the others can probably add another 500,000, another million, I think that we'll be in an extremely good position. Sounds good.
When do you expect the drilling to be, of those wells to be completed? You have a time frame for the completion?
The well at Descents, we were already down to 550, 575 feet, and then we had a cave-in, a collapse. The drillers went back to Trinidad, and they arrived in Nevis. They returned to Nevis today, I think, based on the information that I saw. They are back to try and jack out that cave-in well, and then continue the process. I believe that they may take a few weeks to get that sorted out. The next site that we have identified as the next area that they would do the drilling, that would be in the Braziers area. And then we can decide on any of the other sites. But I don't necessarily want to tell you that it will be done in 2 months or 3 months, because from what we have seen, you have some mechanical challenges at times.
True.
Then you have potential for bad weather interference. I am hoping that conservatively, I think that by the middle of this year, we should be, if not completed, near to completion. I think around Culturama time, a little bit after Culturama Independence time, I think we should be done with it.
Okay, great. Now, I remember some years ago, the CCM administration, and you and I would have discussed it, was having some difficulties with getting big water company to dig 3 additional wells, which already was agreed to. What's the situation with that? Now that you have gone on to...
What I would say about that is in the hands of the lawyers, and they will sort that out.
Okay. Now, Honorable, we are coming up on the hurricane season, and as usual, we get quite a bit of rain during this period.
Yes.
You and I have discussed the question of water catchments on several occasions on this program.
Yes.
So let me ask you this: where are we with regards to that initiative heading into the hurricane season?
Well, I don't want to look at it as a catchment specific for the hurricane season. We have been looking at it from a more sustainable, environmentally friendly initiative and project. The Water Resource Management Unit, headed by Mr. Floyd Robinson, have been doing quite a bit of work in that regard. King, you would recall that before we had made this very significant improvement in our water infrastructure, we had these retention ponds, especially for farming, in the farming areas in Cades Bay, up Spring Hill, down Indian Castle. We had those retention ponds. The agriculture sector is consuming a significant amount of our water. And I think that it is absolutely necessary, if we are serious about food security, we have to provide water. Of course, there are smart technology now that the agriculture sector is using, but water still remains the main component for a successful agriculture sector. So what I know that we have been looking at is for the agriculture to utilize once again those retention ponds and feed, gravity feed downstream to some of those farms. Let's say, for example, the pond in the retention pond in Spring Hill that can feed the entire area of Cades Bay, and you know Cades Bay is one of those large areas where we have a number of farms. But that is what I know that the water resource management has been using. The challenge that we are having is that the entire infrastructure is one interconnected system. To separate the agriculture sector from, that is the challenge. It's almost as if we now have to go and run some new supply line down to these farms. So that is what I know that Mr. Robinson have been charged with, and he has been looking at it. He have been trying to come up with some strategies and how we can get it done. But that is where we are with it. He have been doing quite a bit of work, and I want to publicly thank him. I think that oftentimes there are a lot of people in the background who are doing some remarkable work. I often call some of them the unsung heroes, but he has really been trying to get that issue, because the space is there, the retention pond, some of the infrastructure is still there, some of the old metal pipes to and from some of those retention ponds are still around. So he just basically have to come up with a final solution, and then we can complete that project.
Okay. Now, the storage of water is very important.
Yes.
Drilling more wells is good. Building more desal plant is good. Putting in new pipelines is also good. But so is the collection from our water from the heavy rainfalls.
Yeah.
Storage of that is critical. I heard you just now, and I like the initiative, but the point I was trying to get across is that in the hurricane season, we tend to get a lot more rain and some heavy rains, and a lot of it goes to waste. I was hoping that...
Well, you are correct. I don't want you to think that a lot of that water is actually wasting. A lot of that water actually soak through the ground, soak through the surface. While you may be seeing a lot of it running down the road, and a lot of that heavy rainfall actually are what try to replenish some of our aquifers.
Okay.
You know, water soaking through, going through the rocks and so on. The idea of capturing that, we don't have an infrastructure right now to capture that. There are some cities, there are some countries that capture that and process it and use it for things like landscaping and perhaps flushing toilets and those kind of things. We don't have that infrastructure in place. It would actually help to ease some of the stress off of our wells, but we don't necessarily have that structure in place to deal with that runoff as you speak about.
Okay. Now, your efforts to store water in the Hamilton and Zetlands area are commendable, but we will need additional water storage to ensure that there is no longer the need for water rationing in the future. So speak to us about your plans for additional water storage on the island, like you did at Hamilton or Zetlands. Where next?
Morning Star.
Morning Star.
Morning Star is next. We presently we have a very old fiberglass tank in the Morning Star area. Not really being utilized. We have presently, I believe it's 2 quotation to build a 500,000 gallon water tank in that area. There are some neighboring lands around the site where the fiberglass tank is, and the owners of those property have been extremely gracious to offer that property to the Nevis Island government and to the people of Nevis, and at a price, King, that I think is very commendable. I really want to thank them. I will not call their name, but I really want to thank them for, in my mind, the kind of generosity and the kind of goodwill that they were willing to part with that property. Because we recognize that the 500,000 gallon tank, the footprint of it would have had to encroach on their land, and an approach was made, and they were willing to elderly persons who are a little bit up in age, and perhaps they felt that they can part with that property for the betterment of their country. And I really want to thank them. So Morning Star is next. We like I said, we have 2 quotations. We are finalizing the purchase agreement. Once I think that we conclude either the deposit or the payment, some payment arrangement, then we can actually get going with that project. But Morning Star will be next, and that project at Morning Star will be absolutely critical, another critical component in our water infrastructure. Presently, we are moving water from all the way in Gingerland, all the way down to Brown Hill, Bath, and Cherry Garden. It's a long distance.
Yes.
The pressure. Once we are able to erect that tank in the Morning Star area, then we can bring some relief. We can ease some of the pressure off of the Gingerland system, and then we would be able to feed areas like Church Ground, Brown Hill, Cherry Garden, and the Cherry Garden area is a rapidly developing housing area.
Right.
And then you have in the area of the Prospect industrial site as well. All of those areas that can then be fed from the Morning Star infrastructure that we are hoping to put in. I am hoping that would be a project that we can have completed this year. Like I said, once we are able to finalize the land agreement and the land purchase, then we can begin to execute that project.
Sounds good. Sounds real good. Now, before I leave the topic of water, I want to give you the opportunity to talk to us a little about your staff at the Water Department, the hard work that they're doing, and the training sessions that they continue to receive from time to time.
Well, at the beginning you said water is life.
Of course.
And I think that is an accurate statement. I believe that the water department staff, a lot of their work sometimes is unseen. A lot of the infrastructure is underground. A lot of the tanks are out of sight, high elevation, so a lot of people don't really see those tanks. The persons are even unaware that those tanks exist. But I think that over the years that they have done, and even before my time, the water department have really done some heavy lifting here in the country. I think it's a team, it's a bunch of men and ladies who are committed to their task. Of course, there are times when you know, as the minister, you wish you can do more, you wish you can, but I think that they continue to go, in most cases, above and beyond, and I think that they continue to appreciate what it is that they are doing for the people of Nevis. It's a very important service that we have to offer to the people of Nevis. If we don't offer that service, then it could have a cascading effect in all sectors on the island.
True.
So it's a very important arm of government. It's a very important wheel, so to speak, in the development of the island of Nevis. And I really want to tip my hat to them. Sometimes when we are home sleeping, they have to fix a pipe in the middle of the night, because that's just the nature of their job. And I really want to thank them. We have had persons who would have retired as well, who would have fit in that same mold, who oftentimes would have gone above and beyond. And I think that I, as the minister, and I believe that I can speak on behalf of the Premier and the Cabinet of the Nevis Island Administration, that we continue to be grateful, we continue to be thankful for their service, because without them, could jeopardize our food security, it could jeopardize our healthcare system, it could jeopardize our tourism product, you name it. That's just how important the water department team is, the infrastructure is. And as we try to continue to build and offer training and try and see how best we can make sure that they are taken care of in the best way we can, we really want to tip my hat to them.
Okay, great. I understand that you had a staff retreat a couple of months ago as well. So shed some light for us.
I believe that was a part. I believe that was a part of the World Water, where they had some, downtime, and it was all. I think that at times we have these kind of events and activities where the workers can probably relax a bit and have a eat or drink or whatever you call it in a different kind of setting. That was basically the general sense of it. I know a few years ago we would have had a major activity at the at NIPA, where I believe it was the entire staff, came together to try and show some appreciation, make them feel and understand that, hey, listen, we appreciate you, right? And I think that once we continue to do that and make people realize that they are appreciated, make them understand that they play an important role in the development of the country, then I believe that at the end of it, they can say, hey, listen, they did their part. Government, ministers, managers also did their part for the betterment of their well-being and for the betterment of the people of Nevis.
Okay, great. Now, I want to focus your attention now on the continued development of the road network here on the island of Nevis. But before we do that, I want to ask you to give us an update on the assistance that your public works team is providing to the federal government on the island of St. Kitts. Tell us about the assistance that has been given thus far, and if possible, what other assistance will be given.
Well, last year we would have had a request from our counterparts on St. Kitts through a company called Rock and Dirt. I believe that he would have had some contract with the federal government to do a number of roads on St. Kitts, and he would have reached out to us and asked us to loan, I believe it was our milling machine paver, and I think it could have also been one of our rollers to help in that exercise. We would have done quite a bit of work on St. Kitts. We did the old road project. That was the first thing that we did last year. I believe that that project has really enhanced the old road area. We would have done Market Street, we would have done Bay Road, we did Ponds Pasture, we did Bank Street. Well, when I say we, our equipment and the operator, along with the company that was assigned Rock Under. We also did the airport road up to St. Peter's. So we would have offered them that assistance with our equipment. We are now finishing up, I think, an area there where, which I think may be the final, because we have our own schedule now. we have just had a shipment of aggregates, so bitumen is on the way. So we are now ramping up for our own road infrastructure program here at Nevis. So I think that I am not certain how what other services we can offer to them in the short term, but we will now be focusing primarily on some of the areas that we definitely have to deal with here.
Great. Folks, you're listening to Government at Work. My guest this evening is the Honorable Spencer Brand. We shall take a short break, and when we return, we shall continue with our discussions here on Government at Work.
So right, St. Thomas is right, St. James is put together and build your land. Right, St. George's and St. Paul's together with St. John's. This land is enough for all to share. No reason to leave and go nowhere. Foreigners can come here from America and England. There is something mighty sweet about my land. And if the foreigners who live here can insist that it's here they're from, then I swear I'll never leave my native land. One people, one country.
Honorable, I want to talk now about your continued road program here on the island of Nevis, and I want to start with the Bad Village Road Network program. Is the Bad Village Road Network program completed, or there is more work to be done in that area?
We have some more work to do in the Bad Village area. We have just completed the drainage component of it. You would know the area we call the mud. We would have done a drainage from in the village road, really up by the housing area all the way down to the sea, passing in the area of Conchal Spotlight. And again, I want to thank the landowners in the area for allowing us or giving us and offering us a portion of their land to pass the drainage system through their property. That was completed, I believe it was late last year. And we, of course, still have Jericho Road to do. From by Alfred the Tamandry going down, and we have the ring road from Conchal coming right back around to the Blackhat area. So there are two sections there that we have to go and complete.
From the Tamandry going down and then going around from the one way you come all the way around.
Yes, that okay. All of that was a part of the project.
Okay.
King, it's not that we are unaware of what we need to do. I often say that if one of these days you have the chance and you come to my office, I will show you the stockpile of areas that we know we have to do. My challenges, of course, has to do with resources, because everything we do is at a cost. So that is where we are in the Bad Village area. You
think you'll get that due by the end of the year? Or?
I don't want to say yes, and I don't want to say no. I know that it is a part of the entire schedule and a part of the entire program. But we know that we have to have those two areas completed.
Okay. What about the Butlers Road network? Is that completed, or there's more work to be done in
the
that
Butlers area? Is completed. Right now we are just fencing a property in Butlers. All of the road, all of the curbs, everything in Butlers is finished. It's just an area that we were privileged to have use of. The property owners would have allowed us to use their land, and the agreement was that we would fence their land. They wasn't really asking for any. And I think at the end of the day, it's a much better deal than if we would have had to pay rent, because we were in Butlers for over a year and a half, 2 years. So we are working on that, and we are hoping to have that completed, and then we can say finally that Butlers is fully 100% completed.
Great. Now during the 2024 budget presentation,
yes,
you mentioned a few roads that are earmarked to receive some attention in 2025 once the funding is available, of course, namely the Church Ground to Hamilton Road, the Ramsbury Road, and a number of other village roads. We are with regards to the further development of those.
Well, we have started the Brown Pasture Road, Brown Pasture Morgan Estate Road. That's an area where Mel Hanley lives. That road going all the way up. It has been in a deplorable state for some time. We would have erected a water tank at high elevation in that area, and since that time the road was in some desperate need for some upgrade. We are now on that project. The water department is putting in some water lines, and then we would have that area. In terms of the Church Ground Road, we are looking to see, we are somewhat a little bit hesitant with Church Ground, and I'm going to explain to you why. The geothermal project, we know that the geothermal project is on the cards. We have been having some conversation with Nevlec and in terms of the route to the power plant, and we are a little bit hesitant and cautious to go in and do the entire Church Ground project, knowing that shortly after we may have to decide to so we are, I believe that Nevlec is at a point now where they are finalizing that route from the geothermal site to the power plant, and once that is done, I think that we can. But there is a section in Church Ground from the intersection there, the famous Gish bus, all the way over to the that is something that we have looked at, and I'm hoping that we can give that some attention during the course of this year. I also know that we have had the Taylor's Pasture Road in Gingerland around the Methodist Church. We are hoping that as well, that we can give that some attention this year. I know that we have also earmarked some areas in the Ramsbury area, some drainage area. So we have some areas that we know that we need to give some attention to. There is some sections in Jessops that we really need to get done. There is an area above the Jessops Community Center going around that area there. It's a kind of driving across the above the community center. It's a kind of dangerous, it's a kind of hazard really. And that is one area that sometimes give me a few additional gray hairs because I really wouldn't want anybody going across there and slip and slide and get down and get into. So that is something that we have been keeping an eye on, that we would really, really like to get done this year. So, and there are some areas of drainage that we really hoping to give some attention to. We have had a long-standing problem there, just in Jessup's area, going down by the mangoes. Yeah, we have a situation there that the engineers have been wrestling with it, because the area there is very flat. The drainage is a problem. That is something that I would really want us to give some attention to as well this year. We have a situation over in the Whitehall area where coming down from the field and going down into that gut, we have a number of families there that whenever you have heavy rainfall, their homes are virtually threatened. And in the last set of heavy rain, it was very evident that that is something that needs to be addressed. It's Barnesgut. We have the area at the top of Barnesgut going up. That has been a problem as well. So we have, it is not that we are unaware of some of those areas and a lot of the secondary village roads that really need to give some attention to. But like I said, my main challenge is the limited resources. And I know that health is fighting, education is fighting, agriculture. But I think, but whatever resources are made available to us, we would try and use it the best way we can to try and bring as much relief to as many persons as possible. Okay,
great. Now, I must mention that the Westbury Camps Road is another major road network that has been earmarked for some time now for further development. Do you see that happening in 2025, or that will have to wait until perhaps 2026?
Well, we actually have that design. That design was done a couple of years now, King.
Yes.
That again is another main area that really needs to be done. We have the design, we have the costing. Well, the costing is probably now 2 years old. We probably have to go back and revamp that estimate, because it's about 2 years. More or less everything would have gone up since that time. I honestly cannot sit here and tell you when we can get to it. The truth is, and the reality is, again, that cost for that road, I believe it was over $10 million. And I wouldn't want to go in and do piece of it, piecemeal. It is almost like a Island Main Road project. We have a number of culverts, guts and so on that we'll have to get over. There are some straightening that we'll have to do, so that road is very much involved. But we have the design. Like I said, 2 years now, we have over 2 years actually, we have had some costing on it done. But once I have the necessary resources, we can trigger the execution of it.
All boils down to resources.
Yes.
Okay. I want to take a look now at the operations at the asphalt plant, because sometimes we forget that the resurfacing of all those roads that has been done, and those roads that are to be done, all starts with the staff, the equipment, and the operations at the asphalt plant. To speak to us a little about the type of equipment that is the readiness of the plant, and of course the contribution of the hard-working staff that is currently employed at the asphalt plant.
You're on a mission tonight for me to really highlight what I call some of our unsung heroes.
Yes.
The very small, tight bunch there at the asphalt plant. We would have recently employed a young electrician there. The asphalt plant, King, is where all of the magic happens, really. Again, out of the eyes of the public. It's in the background, but if the asphalt plant is not on the A game, we are in trouble. We have just recently sent 2 individuals, Kester Webb and Andres Bartlett, to the Kentucky Asphalt Institute. And again, in an effort to try and help them to be even better at what they do. These two are seasoned individuals who are in the business of, one in particular in the business of the mixing the asphalt, and then you expose and try to elevate someone else. But those two have had some recent training at the Kentucky Asphalt Institute, and they would have gone through a very rigorous training exercise. And these two individuals, I feel, if one of them, for some reason, and that is why I believe that you should always have redundancies in your system. Our bodies at times break down. We have to be out of commission. And because one individual is out of commission, it does not mean that the entire system should fall down.
Sure.
So you try and expose as many persons as possible.
Sure.
So these two gentlemen went. They were taught the asphalt, the mixing of asphalt in terms of aggregates and honing their skills and so on. Like I said, we also had recently employed a young electrician there. We have had some issues at the plant. I believe it was at the end of 2023 when we had a fire, a very mysterious fire at the asphalt plant. We after that incident, we literally rewired the entire system. We would have replaced the tank, the heating tank itself, all of the electrical and heating element and store, all of that has been improved and replaced where necessary. So the asphalt plant itself is almost a pretty brand new. We can get some good years now out of it. So all of the magic really happens there. The skill set is these two gentlemen in particular at a level where they can sleep and mix asphalt. That's the level that they are at.
Oh.
I would say to you that even when we subcontract, for example, Surrey Paving, these are the guys who mix the asphalt for Surrey Paving. Would say to them, this is what I want, and this is what they have given to them. So it's a very small team, tight team, and they are, in my mind, one of the main component in our road enhancement program. Like I said, we have just got a shipment of aggregates, so we are now ramping up to do some of the major road work that we know that we have to do during the course of this year and going over into next year.
You spoke a little earlier of the mysterious fire.
I would leave it at mysterious.
No, yes, I was just thinking of security for the...
Yes, we are looking at the security. We do actually have a quotation for some security. My thinking on security is slightly different. I know that the Nevis Island Administration have been expanding our CCTV camera network. And we are also looking at tying that compound into the entire government CCTV network that is monitored 24/7. So security, of course, is of paramount importance, and that is something that I know that we very shortly would bring to a conclusion, because I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night or my phone go off again in the middle of the night and say we have another mysterious fire. If it's a mysterious fire, we will know where the mystery came from.
Okay, I got you. Now, you are also the minister with responsibility for the environment here on the island of Nevis, and quite recently there was a workshop called the Green Climate Fund Readiness 4. According to reports, the purpose of that workshop was to review key outcomes and bolster multi-hazard preparedness, disaster, risk management, resilience across St. Kitts and Nevis. Enlighten us a little on that exercise, how it unfolded, really.
Well, that was a very timely conference here in the Federation. I want to make sure that I get the information correctly because of the importance of that conference. We had in the Federation, I believe it was the head of the Green Climate Fund. That's how important this conference was. They looked at issues of financing for these green projects. They look at, I know that they spend quite a bit of time on the geothermal development here on the island of Nevis. Actually, the head of the Green Climate Fund actually visited Nevis and went to the site. That is how keen and interested a lot of these green financiers are of when it comes to the geothermal project here at Nevis. I believe it was a forum for network building. It also highlighted some of the challenges that many of these territories are facing when it comes to accessing green financing. So it was a forum that I felt was able to accomplish its mission to get the head of the Green Climate Fund. The Prime Minister of Barbados also made an appearance. So that just to show you how important and how interested persons are when it comes to the protection of our environment. We are hoping that from that conference, from that forum, from those meetings, that we can see greater, or let me fashion that differently. We can see greater ease of access to some of these green climate funding for development here, not only in St. Kitts and Nevis but throughout the region, because that has been one of the arguments that, listen, we are not major contributors to some of the challenges that we are facing in the environment, but we are at the tip of the sword when it comes to the devastation from these events. Hurricanes are becoming stronger. To see that you can get a Category 5 hurricane in May and June, starting from a tropical depression and then ramp up to a Category 5 in a matter of hours.
Yep.
That is scary.
Very.
That is scary. So I believe that they are taking notice, and we will continue to do what we need to do to try and see how best we can access to some of these funds.
Great. Now, speaking of the environment, you presented a resolution in the House of Assembly on Tuesday of this week. Just in case there may be those who may not have heard it, could you read it one more time for their benefit?
Subsequently, I work with it actually.
Okay, good.
It's like I was reading your mind. Well, it was a resolution, King, that speaks to the protection of. Let me read the actual resolution. Resolution number 3 of 2025 to be adopted in this Honorable House. Resolution of the Nevis Island Administration, the administration acting through its cabinet ministers, the ministers. Whereas in supporting and approving the island of Nevis to meet its regional obligation as a signatory to the St. George's Declaration of Environmental Sustainability in the OECS, including Principle 11, using available resources wisely, Principle 12, protecting natural and cultural heritage, and Principle 13, protecting plant and animal species. The ministers of the administration in their meeting on the 16th April 2025 passed, adopted and consented to the following declarations and resolution. And whereas recognizing the importance of sustainable management of its natural resources and rich biodiversity, the administration has made a commitment to protecting its forests, inland waters, and coastal and marine areas. Now therefore be it resolved that this Honorable House does hereby declares its intention that 1. The forest at Nevis Peak above the 1,000-foot contour throughout the island of Nevis be and is hereby constituted the Nevis Peak National Park. Further, the Nevis Peak National Park is hereby declared to be a Category 2 protected area in accordance with the International Conservation Union IUCN guidelines. The Camps River watershed as described by the map appended to the resolution, is hereby declared to be a protected area for the purpose of environmental conservation and protection. 3. The Nevis Peak National Park and the Camps River Watershed are hereby referred to as the protected areas. 4. The Department of Physical Planning and Environment will be charged with the management and administration of the protected areas, and with all responsibility for giving full effect to this resolution. 5. The Department of Physical Planning and Environment will be authorized to give special consideration to applications for development above the 1,000 foot contour and below the 1,300 foot contour in the island generally, as shown in the map appended to this resolution. This declaration be duly gazetted at the earliest possible date after the adoption of this resolution, approved by the Nevis Island Assembly this 29th day of April 2025. Now,
speak to the purpose of the resolution.
Well, let me highlight a few areas. It spoke to the fact that St. Kitts and Nevis are signatories to the St. George's Declaration of Environmental Sustainability in the OACS. That's the first thing. And in that declaration, that is the St. George's Declaration, there are a number of principles that is attached to that declaration. One of which is Principle 11, that is using available resources wisely. And let us talk a little bit about using our available resources wisely. Nevis have been marketing and promoting Nevis naturally. That has been one of our tagline: Nevis nice, Nevis beautiful, Nevis naturally, all of that. And that falls in the context of using our available resources wisely. What is our available resource? We don't have gold and diamond and oil and all of those things.
True.
What we have is up in the mountain, the greenery, the flora and the fauna, and going up there and you listen to the birds and so on. So we have to try and protect that.
Right.
That is one component of it. Principle 12, protecting natural and cultural heritage. What are our natural and cultural heritage? When we look at our natural, that goes again to our forests and our cultural heritage, a lot of our historical sites and those kind of things and so on. So we have to try our best and so on to protect those. And principle 13, protecting plant and animal species. Now, I draw in the explanation the challenge that we are having with the monkeys. The further up in the mountain we go, we are literally encroaching on the
monkey turf.
That is and the environment really that the monkey is habitable.
Yes.
So when you wake up in the morning and you realize that the monkey is coming down closer to you, is because you are going up closer to them.
Exactly.
Right? How do we balance all of that? The thinking is that we want to be able to be in a position where we can restrict any construction above the 1,000 foot contour, so that we can protect not only the monkeys, we can protect the plants and the flora and fauna, we can protect the greenery, the environment and all of that. That is what this entire and we are also meeting our obligation with the St. George's Declaration. In my research and in my preparation for this, I realized that we had already made a determination that there are not to be any construction above the 1,000 foot line since 1904.
Yeah, but let me ask you that, because I was coming to that. That house we see highest at the top of Bansgard, isn't that above the contour? It's borderline.
My research is that it's just in that area there. So,
okay.
But I'm saying that this is something that persons who are long beyond us have been battling with since 1904.
True.
That's over 120 years.
Yeah.
So It will have, in my mind,
it will give some protection.
It would give some protection. It would also allow us to meet our obligation with some of those agreements that we have signed.
Okay.
And it would also make sure that when we go out to speak about protecting our environment and seeking access to green funding, that we can say, hey, we are playing our part in not only protecting our environment, but protecting our culture, protecting our flora and fauna and so on. Because the further up we go, the more we cut down trees, and it is also creating some challenge for us in our water infrastructure as well.
Now, as was mentioned earlier, we are approaching the start of the 2025 hurricane season, and since you are the minister responsible for the disaster preparedness unit, could you speak to us a little about the upcoming preparations for this year's hurricane season, especially in light of the fact that the experts are predicting an increase in the forecast for 2025?
You know, sometimes I just wish that they are wrong, but they in the last few years they have been pretty accurate. We have done a number of things so far in preparation. We have just recently completed some hurricane shelter management training. We felt that that was important because in any natural disaster, and in particular hurricanes, persons who utilize our hurricane shelters, their normal and natural way of life have been significantly disrupted. And we felt that we needed to add some additional training to those shelter managers that would allow them to provide the necessary level of service or improve level of service to these persons who would often frequent these hurricane shelters. And again, King, in the business of trying to improve your standard and sharpen your tool and so on and so forth, we felt that that was important. It's in those situations, I think that tension can get a bit high. Persons can become frustrated, and you know, the idea was to try and offer that level of training so that people can better manage those situations. We have also completed some assessment training, some damage assessment training, because we want that whenever there is any natural disaster, the assessment that is done is as accurate and as pinpoint as possible. We don't really want to leave anything to chance. We want to make sure that when we provide our report up the chain, that we cover as much of the damage or all of the damage if possible, so that we can be properly assessed when it comes to the damage assessment. So that training is also offered. We are planning our preliminary pre-planning meeting. I think it's in a couple of weeks' time, actually before the start of the hurricane season. That's a meeting that I will chair as the minister with responsibility for disaster management. And in that meeting, we will be having some conversation with all of the stakeholders: fire, health, education, you name it, the media, and we basically try and gauge where everybody is in terms of the preparation for the hurricane season. We are Red Cross, all of that, everybody who have anything to do with disaster will be in that meeting. We would ensure that we outline what are some of the expectations, and again, I would rather be over-prepared than under-prepared when it comes to a disaster. I would rather to have these necessary trainings and these necessary meetings before a natural disaster than if we have a natural disaster and we are scrambling. I think that the staff at the disaster management, headed by Mr. Brian Dyer and Mr. Jacob Kumba, I'll never get his last name. And Jack and the entire staff continue to. They understand their role. They understand the mission. I think that they are that team, the disaster, are the frontline defense for the island of Nevis when it comes to our disaster preparedness. And that's a team that has to get it right every time. It's as simple as that. And they understand the importance of their role. They are positioned in an infrastructure that can literally stand alone. If the rest of the island is disrupted, the disaster management unit, even if the rest of the island is disrupted for 1 hour, the disaster management unit must still be able to function within that hour.
True.
That's how important that unit is. And I believe that with their experience and with their training, they continue to give good advice, timely advice. And I think that at the end of the day, they try to ensure that they help to prepare the people of Nevis as much as possible.
Sure.
And once that is done, and once the level of preparation is in place, then we can just leave the rest up to the master.
Great. Actually, I'll be having Mr. Dyer here as my guest next week.
That's good.
Into in-depth discussion.
Yes.
You know, so, I want to move now, before we run out of time, to the Department of Labor.
Yes.
I remember saying to you in 2021 that I believe that Nevis would come out of this COVID-19 pandemic stronger than before. I said that because I was seeing a number of new businesses opening up, and I had the feeling that when the service industry reopened, it would come back stronger than before. The COVID-19 pandemic is now well behind us, and just as I predicted, we are seeing a surge in the labor force. Shed some light for us on where we are with regards to our labor force at this point.
I actually work with the 2024 statistics.
Okay, better still.
For 2024, and this is the statistics from the Labor Department.
Okay, great.
I often believe that Social Security will have some slightly different numbers. But I am not too worried about the numbers, the trend that you have to look at. In the first quarter of 2024, we had an employment statistic data report level at 5,731. That was in the first quarter, at the end of the first quarter in 2024. At the end of the second quarter, we saw a number of 5,741. That's an increase of 10? At the end of the third quarter, we had a level of employment of 5,936. And then at the end of 2024, the fourth quarter, we were at a level of 6,003. 6,003. Now, the numbers and the trend is trending upwards.
Yes.
Right? If I begin to see these numbers going in a different direction, then I begin to get worried.
Okay.
Right? The employment level, King, as you rightly said, there continue to be a lot of small business. And even if you add another conservative 5% to those numbers, there are persons who are doing their own private hustle, as we would say. Some of those data are not necessarily captured. I feel that while there has been a lot of empty noise, that nothing is happening. I call it empty noise.
Yep.
I was going to say something else, but we are on Vanuatu. the numbers are saying something totally different.
True.
Data don't lie.
Nope.
Figures don't lie. If the Labour Department were to say to me that in 2024 we started at 6,000 and at the end of 2024 we were down at 5,500, then I would have said, well, the empty noise have some merit, but there is no merit for the empty noise.
Okay.
Right? Because the numbers are telling me something totally different to all the noise that they are making.
True.
Right? And like I said, these numbers would be slightly different to what Social Security has.
True.
Because Social Security
capture it all.
capture a bit more than what Labour. You know, they oftentimes there are some slight difference. But if I were to get the numbers from Social Security, I am almost certain that the trend would be saying the same thing, going upwards.
Great. Now, a number of projects is set to come on stream here in Nevis during 2025, including the startup of the airport expansion, the drilling of the geothermal wells, the further development of some hotel and villas, just to name a few. My question to you, therefore, is would we have enough workers here in Nevis to handle all the work that is to come, or would we need to import labor?
That's an interesting question, actually. Do we have enough?
Would we have enough?
Would we have enough?
Right.
All of those projects that you spoke about, the geothermal project, I believe that a number of those workers will be coming in with the drillers. That is a kind of highly specialized project. You talk about the airport, contractors who would be dealing with that as well. Is expected that they would use some local and perhaps some of their own technical persons. We have I just spoke about the airport. We have the realignment of the airport road that we would need to get done. That I believe would be local employment. You spoke about other villas, hotel type kind of construction. We have quite a number of highly skilled contractors around Nevis, and I would not lose any sleep over them. Those guys know what they are doing. They are more than capable. Perhaps on some of those villas construction project there may be some importation of certain skill set, but generally I feel that within the confines of what we have now, I think that we would be able to manage those various projects. Of course, if it means then that we'll have to import labor, workers, I don't think that would be too much of an issue, because we have a lot of neighboring islands. We have a lot of Nevisians around who are very skilled. We have folks from the various islands, Windward Islands, who can come and take up some of these jobs. I am not too worried about the availability of workers. That, in my mind, it would be a natural progression, because wherever there is work, people would follow. Let's take, for example, in the context of Four Seasons. That, I believe, was one of the main questions that was asked. I know when Four Seasons came on stream, do you have enough labor? And over the 30 plus years that it has been here, they have done pretty well with what we have, and the addition that they would have made them a crown in their jewel.
True.
I am not too worried about that. Is a natural progression. Wherever there is opportunity, people is going to follow it.
Okay, great. Well, Honorable, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us this evening. You don't come often enough, but when you do come, we get a lot of good information.
I come when you come.
We get a lot of good information. Your final words for our listening and viewing audience.
Well, King, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I thought that we had a very good conversation tonight. I want to thank the listeners and viewers for spending the hour and a half with us, or some portion of that. I hope that the information that we would have provided was acceptable. I hope that we were able to give some information on certain things that persons may not have been aware of before. And this is a program that I, as a minister, and I believe that the entire cabinet share this view, that it is definitely our duty to come and give updates and to give indication as to what is happening, even though that there are those who would try and deceive and mislead sensible people. The facts are there, the proof is in the pudding, and as someone told me just recently, even Stevie Wonder can see. Right. So, King, I want to thank you. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to listen and to view. And I am thankful that you have given me this opportunity to highlight some of the progress that we continue to make in the island, and we continue to do what we can. There are challenges. I would not sit here and tell you that everything is perfect. I would be dishonest. I would not tell you that it's a bed of roses, because it's not. It's every day you have to apply yourself, and every day you have to keep pushing. But at the end of the day, we know what we are about. We are about building a country for our people. We are about trying to ensure that we make the lives of our people better than it was yesterday. Sometimes it takes a bit longer than we would like, but at the end of the day, we keep trying.
Yes.
And when I wake up and I don't have the courage to try anymore, then that would be the time for me to say goodbye.
Goodbye. And that's a good way to end this evening's program, ladies and gentlemen. We have come to the end of another edition of our Government at Work program. Join us again next week when we shall do it all over again. Do enjoy the rest of the evening's programming. Then have a pleasant night's rest. Good night.